Welcome back to In Pursuit of Magic, where we explore the things that inspire us, connect us, and the magic we find along the way. I'm Matthew Medina, and today's very special guest is a New York Times bestselling author whose work for younger readers include the Disney Kingdom Keeper series, Peter and the Starcatchers, and his latest series, Magical Map, follows the siblings Gemma and Torrin, who discover a mysterious magical map that transports them into Disney parks attractions to fix chaotic magical messes affecting each one. His latest release in the series, Haunted Mansion, is now available. Ridley, thank you so much for coming on. It's really exciting to talk to you because I've been reading since the first Kingdom Keepers book, and so it's been a lot of fun diving into this new series.
Thanks a lot, Matthew. For those on a podcast here, Matthew is wearing a Haunted Mansion cap, which just thrills me.
I am. Oh yeah, I made sure to have everything out. I have some Funkos in the back, and my wife and I have a painting. So we're definitely big Disney Parks fans, and I'm a huge Haunted Mansion fan. So this latest book really explores that attraction, which is so much fun. But before we dive into that book, I really want to ask, because I've been reading your stuff for so long, what inspired you to first become a writer, and then what inspired you to write about Disney parks?
You know, I've had an active imagination all my life, so I think it was kind of a natural course. After college, I wrote original sort of folk rock songs and played them in various bands for over a decade. And during that time, I realized I was going to have a lot of fun doing that, but never make any money. So I started writing, and after 8.5 years of writing about 6 hours a day, every day of the week, I finally sold something. And then years after that, my wife and I had children, and I would be making up stories for the children and just enjoying the heck out of that. And I talked to a Disney editor about the fun of the Disney parks and how the attractions have a beginning, middle, and end, and they tell a story. And she said, "Would you ever consider writing a thriller about kids inside the parks?" And that led to The Kingdom Keepers. So it's really been a fun run.
Yeah, and I could assume that was also an exciting journey to research and get involved with, visiting the parks, being on the cruise ship. Do you think that working alongside cast members or Imagineers and going behind the scenes has affected your outlook and perspective on the parks themselves?
Oh, no question. Yes, I the way I work is I in my crime novels, the New York Times bestsellers and stuff, those are all based on a lot of heavy duty research. So when this opportunity came up with Disney, I made a point of asking, the way I write is through research. And I would, because I'm going to make this story about young children inside the parks after dark, I would have to go in there. And they said, yeah, absolutely not. We don't let anybody into the parks after the parks close. Good luck, pal. And they had sort of asked me to do this, and I said, well, okay, but that's how I work, so I don't know what to do here. And about a month later, they called back. Wendy Lefkon called back and said, hey, we're going to give you a VIP pass into the parks. You can come whenever you want. And if you let us know ahead of time, we'll assign a Disney Imagineer after hours, and you can go through the attractions when they're closed down. And that has been an amazing journey for me. Just incredible.
Yeah, it sounds like that would just be an incredible experience to get the behind the scenes look and take your time to really explore what you're going to be writing about. Was there a particular park
Yes,
or the cruise ship that you enjoyed writing about most and exploring?
I really enjoyed every second of, and I still do these research visits, and I enjoy every second of all of them. I've had some really funny experiences. The Imagineers have a great sense of humor, as it turns out, and I was touring Disney Hollywood Studios before it was even Disney Hollywood Studios. And they knew from writing The Kingdom Keepers, I had ended up with a bit of terror surrounding Maleficent. She freaks me out. So one of them kind of abandoned me in the park when it was 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and we were to meet over at uh, one man's attraction, the Disney Museum. And I rounded the corner, and Maleficent was standing there in person and said, Ridley, what are you doing in my park? And I about lost my trousers. It was a terrifying moment.
That's so funny because Maleficent has become one of my favorite Disney villains for the same reason, and I think a lot of it has to do with Kingdom Keepers. So that moment is magical all on its own. I can imagine that living in your memory.
She is a phenomenal Disney villain. I had researched, for the sake of the Kingdom Keepers, who is the public's most feared Disney villain. And there are a couple of winners up there. Chernabog's up there. There are a couple of others, but in most areas that I did the research, Maleficent was always right at the top. And it took me a while to understand why. And I'm still scared of that woman. So, that's how that goes.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes people ask me, "Oh, why Maleficent as the ultimate villain?" I was like, "She's the only one who called on the powers of hell, and I don't know what it is. There's something about that."
She has horns.
Yeah. My next question has to do with overcoming obstacles and closed doors. And, you know, writing about magic all the time, there's a lot of hope and inspiration, especially working within the parks. And in real life, we hit these moments of lulls and things that don't work out, or we don't get the answers we're looking for all the time. How have you learned in your career to kind of overcome those moments and don't let it stop you or slow you down?
Yes, that's a tricky question because, of course, obstacles can set you back emotionally. I think for me, I'm doing what I love, and when I hit obstacles, I just keep doing what I love and counting on the fact that if I work hard enough and I'm willing to work with others, not just hold my own ideas in my head, that you can, at least in the writing world, you can find your way through those moments. They're tough for all of us, and I think, you don't want to be Pollyanna about it, that everything's just perfect all the time. It isn't. And I am renowned for being stupid enough that my first drafts of my books are never any good. They're okay, and they have a lot of good ideas in them, but they need a lot of work. I've published 63 novels, and I don't think any one of them has ever been published without having been rewritten in full. I mean, every sentence 4 different times. It's just part of the work.
I think that's uplifting and inspiring to hear because many times we see people who have found some success and are doing what they love, and it's easy to see that and be like, "Oh, I don't even know where to start. How do I get there?" Like, and in any kind of creative industry, it could be very overwhelming. So, what advice would you give to others who are following a dream?
Yes, I think that it is difficult. It's difficult in business, it's difficult in the arts, it's difficult everywhere to hit obstacles. I heard a great I don't know if you can relate to this, Matthew, but I heard just a terrific expression just 2 days ago, and it was that when your back is against the wall, climb over it. And I think that's really what it's about is, the obstacles are just a part of the journey. And so you figure out how to climb over it and keep going. And I laughed when the person said that because I said, I kind of try to just put my head down and bust through them or find the end of the wall and walk around it. And they said, no, you just got to climb over, man.
Part of what I like about that phrase is it's a different perspective because you think if your back is against the wall, you're not facing it. And so having to turn around and climb over it, it's really about changing how you look at things, which I think is part of the beauty of it. And I
It
think
is.
that's part of the
And
magic of
obstacles,
any experience. And go
yeah,
ahead.
obstacles are an opportunity, plain and simple. They really aren't a
Yeah.
setback. They're an opportunity to take your ego out of it. They're an opportunity to look at it differently. They're an opportunity to change your mind and direction. And if you look at it that way, instead of it's a setback, it's an opportunity. You may have to become a plumber. It may be that you can't be a writer, but that's a great opportunity. So, you just
Yeah.
have to take the punches, roll with them, and look for where the magic is. Look for the light at the end of the tunnel because it is there.
Yeah, and what's interesting is so much of that magic in your stories has to do with your characters overcoming obstacles and figuring out solutions and looking at things differently. Sometimes depending on each other, sometimes figuring out something about themselves. And so I'm curious where you find magic in your process. Is it in the research and the writing, or is it in the release when it's finally in readers' hands, or something else?
That's interesting. I think there's so much magic in the process of writing because you have ideas and you begin to put them on paper and I outline really thoroughly. And yet, as I'm writing along, I think, oh, that character would want to go over there. And I don't even know where that kind of thought comes from. And you take the character over there, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. You have to back up or do this or that. But overall, the magic is in being happy with what you're doing and working hard at it. I love work. So For me, the more work, the better.
Yeah, I think that's something that I've heard from a lot of people who do what they love, and they all say that even in the harder moments, the fact that they're getting up and getting to do what they love, even with whatever setbacks and obstacles, is still magical, and I think that's what keeps a lot of people's fires lit.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
And your current series, Magical Map, has 3 books out so far. There's a 4th one coming in August, the latest one about the Haunted Mansion. What inspired you to write a book about each attraction, like each book focusing on a different one?
Well, I was very lucky that Disney liked the idea. I had written 13 books in the Kingdom Keepers series, and Dave Barry and I wrote 5 books in the Peter and the Starcatcher series. And one of my passions is to try to get and keep young people reading, not necessarily reading the screen on their phones, but reading books, and that understanding how important reading is to your progress in life, and that if you start early, you're doing better. And it was really my agent who came up with the idea and said, you know, what if you could write very simple, shorter books, highly illustrated, that would bring very young readers into the magic of reading? And I said, hey, I am all over that. And Disney loved the idea. And so we're doing 6 books about very young kids, easy reading inside each park and then inside each attraction. And the joy to me, Matthew, was that we asked Disney, we begged Disney, we went down on all fours for Disney to see if we could name the books after the attraction that the kids were in, and they said yes. So it's been really fun because we can just dedicate each book to the Jungle Cruise, to Space Mountain, to Haunted Mansion, to Tiana's Bayou, and dig in and just put the kids into that world in really unusual circumstances and create a really fun adventure.
That's incredible, especially because doing each book on an attraction kind of helps you focus on that one attraction and really explore that more instead of hopping to different spots and places. Excuse me. Your protagonists for the books, Gemma and Torrin, are brother and sister, and so much fun to read about and see their dynamic and their bond. And I'm curious for you, what sets them apart from other protagonists you've written for young readers?
I'm not sure in my kids' world, I'm not sure I've written about family members. In Kingdom Keepers, they're all young children in their teens who know each other. In Peter and the Starcatcher, I do have the darling kids in there, but Dave Barry and I do, but it isn't really focused on them so much as it is Molly and Peter. And it's been really fun. I had a terrific childhood with my sister and brother. I'm the youngest, and they just included me in everything. And we had magical adventures on this little dead end road we lived on. And we had woods around us, and we built forts and tree houses. And it was just an incredible childhood. My mom had an amazing imagination. She was a fine artist. I've been think I've been able to bring that love of adventure to the 2 kids, Gemma and Torrin, whom I just adore and hope I could keep writing forever.
What's so interesting about that bond too is it takes place in each book and you see it growing and kind of shifting back and forth where they both deeply admire each other and they both have certain qualities that contribute to the adventures. And in the second book, Jungle Cruise, there's a couple of new characters introduced that help for part of the story. And part of me wondered if that was going to expand the group. And it was interesting to see that they helped for a moment and there was an interesting kind of dynamic there, but at the end of the day, it comes back to the sibling bond.
Yes, but as you go through the series, those 2 friends become more and more important. And it's fun to write about the team when they're 4 people. So I bounce back and forth between that, but the focus is certainly on Gemma and Torrin.
That's amazing. And the latest book, Haunted Mansion, is about my favorite attraction. And I know it can be a delicate balance between happy haunts and actually scary characters and scary parts of the attraction. So, what was your favorite part about writing about this attraction? But what do you think was also challenging about it?
It's a favorite of mine as well, Matthew, and I think that they just right from the beginning, they've done such a beautiful job with that attraction, riding in the doom buggies and the way they spin and turn around and block you from seeing some things and let you see others, and the doors that clack and that doorknobs that clack and the ghosts that appear. It's very rich environment. If you think about how it starts and its beginning, its middle, and its end, it's just so fantastic. And it's always fascinated me as it does you, Matthew. And I think that I was holding it back in the series. I didn't want to start with it because I really wanted to get a grip on the characters and the world that I was in, and jumped in there for the third of the six books. And I've had so much fun writing it. I hope it's as much fun for the readers as it is for me to write it.
It definitely is. It had all the right beats and all the little Easter eggs, which is a lot of fun. I know in the first book, Pirates of the Caribbean, there may have been hints about future books. I know Space Mountain was kind of mentioned, and your next one is Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So there's a lot of excitement that's ahead, and I'm just curious, before we wrap up, how do you hope to create magic for your readers? And what do you want them to take away from your characters and stories?
From the Kingdom Keepers on, I've really wanted readers to take away that teamwork is what really gets us through life. And that, I mean, I'm talking in very big 30,000 foot views here, and it sounds probably kind of stuffy, but I don't mean it that way. It's just that, you know, we can all get into ourselves a lot. It's good to get out of yourself and work with others. Writing a book is not about the author. Writing a book is about the author, the editor, the publicist, the publisher, um, the publicity like we're doing now. You work with other people, and it's about kindness and cooperation, and that we all help each other get through this crazy thing we're doing. And I hope that the readers take that away from Gemma and Torrin, who, as brother and sister, sometimes they have their little spar.
Very well said. I completely agree. Well, as we wrap up, I just want to remind everyone that Haunted Mansion is now on shelves, and the next book, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, comes out in August, which is very exciting. I know you've also hinted at maybe some big announcements this year, hopefully about both Magical Map and the Kingdom Keepers series, so we'll keep a lookout for that. But Ridley, thank you so much for being on. I mean, for
Thank
years
you,
I've been
Matthew.
reading your
What a
stuff.
delight.
Of course, you
It's,
are a
it's
magic
been
maker, and reading your stuff, feeling the magic, experiencing that as a reader. I started as a teenager. I'm in my 30s. I have a child now. I'm going to be reading it to her. So thank you for all the magic you create. Absolutely. And everyone out there listening, go out there and do some magic. See you next time.